you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Things that makes official. Welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show is a family that loves you and appreciates you, as long as you're not evil. There's a bit of caveat there. So, for the show to your family, friends, and relatives that aren't evil, I think we all have those relatives that are. You're probably thinking one right now. And if you're not, guess what? You're the one. No, I'm just kidding, because you wouldn't be listening to the show if you were evil. Anyway, guys, go to goodreads.com where it says Chris Voss, Facebook.com where it says Chris Voss, YouTube.com where it says Chris Voss, and LinkedIn.com where it says Chris Voss. Follow us over there on all this stuff. And I don't know. For all I know, there's a dark Illuminati cabal that sits around being evil and listens to the Chris Voss Show on how they can turn good into evil. It's probably a whole segment of our audience out there. I don't know. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Anyway, we have an amazing young man today. We're going to be talking about his book, his series, books, and some of the stuff that he's done. So we're going to end with him. David Cuomo joins us on the show. He's the author of The Detective's Quota. February 25th, 2021, it came out. All those great books written during COVID, evidently. Welcome to the show, David. How are you?
I'm very well today. Thanks for asking. Oh,
so give us any .coms or websites, social media, emails, wherever you want people to find out more about you on the interwebs.
Right. I do have a website, and I think you connect to it on Google with my name.
Okay. And there'll be a link to it on the Chris Voss Show as well. So give us a 30,000 overview of what's inside your book on this.
Well, let me start by explaining that I wrote this book in 2021. I am a former assistant state attorney in Chicago. I tried many murder cases during my career. And what prompted me to write this book was actually the George Floyd murder.
Oh, really?
And here's why. I felt that even though that murder was captured on videotape, that there were a lot of people in our country who still believed that the police did not do any wrong. And you see, that bothered me. And so what I did is I remembered some cases that I had tried when I was a prosecutor, and I sort of put them together and came up with this book. This book is in part a discussion of police misconduct. It's a discussion of why the police make errors, why the police cross the line. And like I said, I wrote it because I wanted to say something about this George Floyd situation. Mm-hmm. So that's what the book is about. It's about justice. It's about police misconduct. It's even a little bit about racism.
Oh, really? There's a touch of that in there. Okay. Now, we've had authors on. This is a novel, correct?
Right. Well, yes, it is a novel. It is based, however, on four different cases that I actually tried when I was an assistant state attorney.
Oh, wow.
What I did is I kind of took parts of different cases and I kind of combined them together. Mm-hmm. So what winds up happening is it is a novel. It is fictional, but it's fictional inspired by real stories. That might be the best way to explain it.
You know, it's funny. We have a lot of authors like yourself on the show that were detectives or police officers for a long time. Some of them worked in the murder division, so they saw some pretty crazy stuff. I'm sure you did as a district attorneys. The office, and they can pull these great stories, and then, like you say, they can kind of mix and match them. And the same thing with our military folks. They bring a lot of great, they write a lot of those great Tom Clancy stories and different things because they have that background. So they have this rich, experience. Everyone writes from their experience, right? So You guys have this rich experience of stories, and of course, if you can merge a few of them together, you can build a multi-layered Or multi-lit.
Actually, these cases that I based the book on was in the 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
So I did not get around to writing this book for 40 years, basically.
Wow.
Right.
Now, so you brought this from your experience. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I didn't do a bio on you. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and some of the things that have helped you kind of develop these stories over the decades.
Well, I graduated from Loyola University Law School in 1983. And after that, I joined the Cook County State Attorney's Office as a prosecutor, spent many years there, tried all sorts of cases, murder cases, rape cases, you have it. While I was in the State Attorney's Office, I, on occasion, was made a supervisor. I argued in the Illinois Supreme Court many times. I think, I never kept track of the numbers, but I think I have tried over 75 first-degree murder cases in about a 10-year period. Wow. Right now, I stopped practicing law about 5 years ago, and I have adopted this new idea about being an author. So that's what I'm doing right now. I am writing books, and they're all based on my prior experience, and hopefully I can make a go of it.
And you've got other books that are coming on the way that are part of this series that this book launches. Is that correct?
Right. Basically, it's 5 books altogether. Basically, they all have the same characters in there. And, these characters that I have in the books, they face certain dilemmas, and those dilemmas are repeated in each one of my books. I mean, and basically, I think the best way to describe the genre of these books is that they are murder mysteries. Right. The Detective's Quota, if you were to read it, you would not be able to figure out who the murderer was until you get to the end of the book. And that's the same. That's true of the other books also. But I wanted to, I'd like to say this, I wanted to do more than just be a murder mystery. I wanted to really talk about like what are justice issues in these books. And,
so you weaved all that into the story as well then.
Right. Right. No, I wrote the first one, the Detective's Quota, because of the idea that I wanted to start a discussion about police misconduct and justice. Actually, after I wrote the book, I got personally contacted by, through Facebook and through my email from several people that wanted to start a group discussion about the book, and we did that. For about maybe a year or so, I had 3 or 4 people that I would routinely talk about the book, talk about my interest in further books. And it was a nice thing to do, just to have a collaboration and talking to people that were interested in these kinds of subjects. And
you spent many years in the state attorney's office. How did that experience shape you personally and influence your writing?
Well, I believe that I sort of changed a bit after I was in the state attorney's office. When I first applied to go there, I was very much interested in just trying cases. The idea of, trying the right kind of case, that didn't occur to me. But what changed was I became more and more protective of the police, more and more interested in putting people in jail, which I did very successfully. So I kind of became conservative is the word I'm trying to find. Conservative when it comes to enforcing the law. And here, the George Floyd case is a perfect example of that. I believe that the police in that case should have been prosecuted.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the change. I mean, I went in as a 25-year-old young man, fresh from law school, not quite sure where I fit in. And then over the course of years, I grew this conservatism.
Oh, wow.
And I think that goes into my books. I mean, the books I've written, the ones that are on the are going to be published soon, they're all about that conflict, if you will, between the police and the public when it comes to police misconduct.
Now, tell us about your protagonist. Who's the main character, the lead in this, and what makes him a compelling character?
Well, here, the main character in the Detective's Quota his name is John McBride. Mm-hmm. He is a Chicago police detective who is highly regarded, who works very hard, who solves many cases. And what happens is that his wife and daughter get killed in a motor vehicle accident. Mm-hmm. And McBride falls into a very understandable depression. For a while, he's unable to work. He doesn't show up at work. The police department sort of turns its eye the other way and allows him to not be involved in cases. And what happens is they find out, the police department that is, they find out that he's been using cocaine to get over his depression. And so...
Well, that'll get you over being depressed. That's
right. And the police department didn't appreciate it either, so they made a deal with him. The deal was that he could keep his job only if he solved 3 murder cases in the space of 1 year. So that's where the title of the book comes from, The Detective's Quota. His quota was to solve 3. What winds up happening is 9 months into this probationary period, he's only solved 1 case. And he's very nervous about losing his job. What happens in the book is that 2 women are murdered and raped. And it turns out, according to the police department, that McBride is the person that murdered and raped them. He murdered and raped them because his intention was to frame somebody for committing those murders, and that way he would get his quota. So that's kind of like the bird's eye view of the book. And like I said before, it's a murder mystery. You know, as you read through the book, you're not sure like who the murderer is, and his identity does not become apparent until the end of the book. And I might add, that is all based on real cases. Those things that I described in the book really happened.
Wow. That is wild.
Anyway, he's the main character. McBride is the main character. The book is all about him. And the book is about the choices that he made in order to save his job. Basically, he murdered 2 people, 2 young women, to save his job.
Let's see here. This McBride guy. What do you base his character on? Is he based on a template of any sort of, I don't know, sometimes people, is McBride, sometimes books in New York and different places have, they're set up with the Irish or, some sort of character theme based on himself. What sort of makeup is this man, I guess?
Well, are you asking me what I based him on?
No, maybe so, if that's a good question for you. But what type of character is he? I mean, his name is McBride. Why did you choose that name? And what does it have to do with his character, I guess is what I'm asking.
The idea of the character came from a real case. And there was a man in the Chicago Police Department who did what McBride in the book is accused of doing. He is, I don't know how well you know Chicago, but he is a Chicagoan. He's from the south side of Chicago. He lives about a block from White Sox Park, which, as an aside, I live a block from White Sox Park. So he is a very talented detective. According to the book, he's the most talented detective in the Chicago Police Department. And like I said, he's based on a real human being.
So let's take a look at a few of the other things that are here. Now, your books explore police misconduct and justice, and I think we've talked about why these themes are important. What can you give an example from the book of how you've interweaved those?
Of how I interweaved it?
Yeah.
You mean the issues about justice and
maybe like a plot point from the book?
Right. Here's what I tried to do. There are characters in each of these books that are faced with what you might call moral dilemmas. We didn't talk about them yet, but in the Detective's Quota, there is a police captain whose name is Edward Smith. And he and McBride are both faced with moral dilemmas. Smith's moral dilemma is this. he figures out that McBride committed these murders, and being a longtime police officer who kind of practiced the idea of not ratting on your fellow police officers, he was forced with this dilemma. He wanted to make sure that the streets were safe, but to do that, he had to go after one of his own officers. Okay, he had to convince the state attorney's office. So he broke the rule, if you know what I'm saying. The rule being that the police don't like go against
Blue
each
wall.
other. The justice part of the books is like I said, all these characters are based with some kind of dilemma, a legal or moral one, and they make a choice. And what I hope readers will see is something that they can debate about with those choices that the characters make.
Yeah. And that should be good. That should be good. In the book, you've got reoccurring characters in this upcoming series. And when do the other books come out, and how many are there?
There's 4 of them, and 2 of them I hope to be out in April, and the other 2 by the end of the summer. So a lot of it depends on sales. A lot of it depends on getting good book reviews from book analysts. So there's all those factors that go into it. I'm working really hard with a publisher now who I believe knows what she's talking about, and she thinks that I've written is very sellable, is very interesting, is very current in terms of like what it talks about. It talks about police misconduct, which is a form of governmental misconduct. Anyway, sometime this year, I hope to have the 4 others published, and then we'll see where we go from there. I've tried many cases as a state attorney, so I have lots of ideas about books, and I could probably write 10 of them, in the next 3 years. I have that much material on my hands.
And you could. I mean, most of the detectives we had on the show and previous police work or attorney work, there's like an endless supply of stories they have because they've worked all these cases.
Right.
And I just a note here: someone wanted me to ask you on all the new books and new genres you're working on. Do you have an idea about writing about failed love?
In one of the books, I do actually. It's interesting that you should mention that. The one that I'm working on right now, okay, which is number 5 in the series, is got a detective in a love affair with a woman that he meets. And, the reason I put that in the book was because I'm trying to make these books as best as I can based on things that actually happened. And this book is about a certain detective who falls in love with a woman, and it's about their relationship and how the relationship gets formed, and also how she reacts to the detective's job. His job is to put people in jail, and she has some issues about that. So it is a love affair sort of book, but it's still a murder mystery.
Well, still a murder mystery. So what do you love about writing? When did you start writing? I mean, probably your works at the attorney's office, you had to write a lot of reports and dockets and court stuff. When did you start writing novelish and fiction? Was there a point? Did you always do it when you were young? Maybe where was the point that you're like, hey, I really think this is a thing. I'm going to pursue it.
Well, yeah. When I was in the state attorney's office, I tried a case involving a man named Stephen Linscott. And the long and short of it is that he told the police he had a dream about a murder. And it was a very interesting case. And I started thinking about writing about it way back then in the 1980s. And that's kind of what I sort of wanted to do. The problem why I didn't do this earlier is because there's rules and regulations against state attorneys publishing books based on their cases.
No.
So I had to wait, but I really wanted to write back when I was a state attorney, but like I said, the rules kind of prohibited that.
Yeah. Yeah, the rules prohibit it.
Right.
Yeah, I can see why they give kind of a time thing there. So, as we round out the show, what do you hope people come away with when they read your works and what they learn from them?
I hope they understand what justice is. Mm-hmm. Justice is the right moral thing, and that may vary from situation to situation. But that's what I hope people come across with. And the other thing, too, I said that the books are about police misconduct, and that's very true. But there are also honest police officers in all these books. Yeah. So I wanted to portray that as well and let people see, what honest police work is versus what's not so honest. And that's kind of like my aim. To kind of portray the police, and by the way, to portray the prosecutors, in a very real way. And that's what I hope people take across from the book.
Okay. Well, it'd be pretty interesting. So as we go out, give people your .coms, websites, emails, social media, wherever you want people to find you on the interwebs.
Amazon. Amazon and Google. Right. Right.
Well, thank you very much for coming to the show. We really appreciate it, David. Very insightful, and I'm just looking forward to your burgeoning career of writing these wonderful novels and the series that will come and follow.
Okay. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you, David. And thanks, John, for tuning in. Order up his book wherever fine books are sold. It is entitled The Detective's Quota. February 25th, 2021. It is out. And watch for his upcoming series coming out as well. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, YouTube.com/Chris Voss, and Facebook.com/Chris Voss. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next.
You've been listening to the most amazing, intelligent podcast ever made to improve your brain and your life. Warning, consuming too much of the Chris Voss Show podcast can lead to people thinking you're smarter, younger, and irresistible sexy. Consume in regularly moderated amounts. Consult a doctor for any resulting brain bleed.